Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. When we started this process of looking for a new manager, I met with my staff and with Mr. Castellini. We sat down and outlined the characteristics and qualities we wanted in a manager. And some of the qualities we listed as being very important were character, leadership, good communication skills, work ethic, culture of accountability, preparation and organizational skills, and many more. But those are some of the top ones we looked at. It was very clear in our first meeting with Bryan that he not only met those qualifications but exceeded them. And as you will all soon discover as you spend some time with him today, the next few days, the next few months leading up to spring training. In addition, Bryan's familiarity and relationships with our organization and our team, both position players and pitchers, I think put him in a position to have a smooth transition going forward. He has the intelligence and personality and communication skills to lead this team going forward. And we are very excited about having Bryan lead us going forward. But I'd like Mr. Castellini to say a few words before we introduce Bryan.
Thanks, Walt. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do to see one person that you've worked with so closely for 6 years move on. And I can say until this moment it was a lot more difficult than it is now that we have his replacement, because Bryan is exceptional, and we've been fortunate enough to have been with him long enough to know how exceptional he is. We've had good response from most everyone, but the one I liked the best was from Sam LeCure, who just told me outside that he was sorry he was losing his pitching coach. And I assured him that his pitching coach would still be in the dugout with him. Bryan is, as I read a Bronson quote, he's really freaking intelligent, and he is. And he also can communicate very, very well, and he knows baseball very well, and he loves the game, and he loves the Reds. And if we hadn't kept him here, he would have gone elsewhere, I'm sure. I can't tell you how well this has fit in for us. We did not have to go out and do a search. We had the person that we felt could take this team to deep into postseason and then some. And as a result, we're here today, and we're very pleased to be here. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you the new manager of the Cincinnati Reds, Bryan Price.
Goal one accomplished. I didn't trip and fall on my way up here to the podium, so that's a good start. Thanks for being here. This is obviously a huge moment for me and my family. I couldn't be happier to be the next manager of the Cincinnati Reds. Greatly indebted to Mr. Castellini, the ownership group, Walt in the front office for showing a lot of confidence in my ability to take on this position. And also truly blessed to have just a great group of players, coaches, people in the organization that will, allow us to take, the Reds organization to the next step, the next level. It's been, it's been a heck of a ride to this point, that's for sure. And I know with this job there comes an awful lot of accountability and responsibility. One thing that I'd really like to accomplish is to try to make sure that everybody here in the Reds organization can feel that these are some of the best years that they've spent within the Reds organization. And I just hope to cultivate some even stronger sense of unity here to an organization that's already extremely united. So I think there's some other people that certainly need some note. And first of all, Dusty Baker. I had the good fortune of spending 4 years with Dusty as his pitching coach here with the Reds, and he became a very good friend and a confidant, and I learned a lot from him. It was not easy to initially make this transition, but I know these things happen, and I'm fortunate to have spent 4 years with him as a good friend. So that being said, there's been a lot of people that have influenced this opportunity, and more importantly than anything, it's really been the players that I've had the good fortune to work with to this point that have put me in a position to be in this spot today. So I want to thank all the guys certainly that I've worked with in the past. Beyond that, I'm open to questions.
Bryan, why don't you sit down here? I will take this microphone. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and we will get you the microphone. Brad?
Good job. Brad Johansson, Local 12, straight ahead of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is first order of business if this team hasn't moved on from that spot that you want to move on in the playoffs? What is first order of business for you to get to that spot that you say take it deep and beyond?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's perhaps having a better understanding and appreciation for where we are, and where we are is a very talented group. I think a team that's capable of doing even more. And I think we certainly should talk very optimistically about the 3 playoff appearances in the last 4 years. And it may be somewhat discredited because we haven't gotten beyond the first round, considering where we were the 15 years prior. It was definitely a huge step in the right direction, but we all have expectations of getting beyond that. Unifying the common goal, understanding I think there's a lot of things in this game are black and white. Preparation, effort, and energy are things that we need to bring to the field every day. And we've got to be able to pull for each other and hold each other accountable to taking this talent to the very next level. I think we're capable of doing that.
Brian, George Vogel, WLWT. And my premise may be wrong on this, but given your resume, you've had a lot of opportunities, and maybe more opportunities have come your way since you've been in Cincinnati. Did you feel like you were a manager in waiting, and what kept you here if not that?
Well, I think the first thing is I've always appreciated the position I was in as pitching coach. I think there's a lot of responsibility in that. To be able to cultivate really close relationships with the pitchers was something that I always enjoyed. Building game plans and trying to find a common goal and go out there and attain it. So that was always very seductive. It was alluring to stay in that position. But I think going through the experience with the Miami Marlins at this time last year and going through the interview process, getting an opportunity to share my ideas and philosophies on putting together a team or an organizational philosophy, just got me thinking a lot more about it. And I think at times everything has a shelf life. Not to say I'd never be a pitching coach or want to be a pitching coach again, but I think the next challenge was out there, and I really wanted to meet it.
Brian, Joe Daneman, Fox 19. We've heard the word accountable and accountability a lot so far today. Was that something that was missing here, and how do you go about doing that with this club?
Well, it's a great question in that I think there's different versions of that. Everyone has a different version. I think there's so much turnover in players anymore, and connectivity to your team and your organization is harder and harder to come by. So being able to unify a group and not just expect the manager and the coaches to hold the players accountable, but for players to hold themselves accountable. And I think we have a lot of players with that type of character here already, or you wouldn't see a team that is pushing for division titles and things of that nature. However, I think being able to bring the full 25-man roster and coaching staff together in that common goal is important, which also means sometimes the players holding themselves accountable for things, the coaching staff, etc. But we got to be unified in that one goal. It has to be the most important thing, is to play the best baseball that we're capable of playing on a daily basis with energy. And when we see those people that are surrounding the ballpark at the end of the day when we're leaving that are ensconced in Cincinnati Reds gear, we have to feel that we've given them their money's worth on the field. Win or loss, we've got to be able to give them their money's worth as far as our effort on the field.
Bryce Onslinger from WCPO. Obviously, you have the experience of handling the pitching staff. Now with the managerial role, you take over the offense as well. Talk about how you plan to handle, the offensive side of the game with your experience, as a pitching coach.
Well, I always reminded Joey to line up his knuckles before he hit, so I think that might be something I pass on to everyone. Look, I mean, I'm not here to teach hitting and necessarily offense. What I'm here to do is to get people in position that are going to continue to enhance our ability to thrive offensively, and then be able to utilize the athletes that we have on the field. A lot of what's going to happen from the manager standpoint is going to come based on the athletes that we have on the field. But I think more than anything, it's understanding strengths and weaknesses of your team, putting guys in the best position to be successful, and also try to push them to be as good as they can be on a daily basis.
Bob Denny Jansen from Channel 9. You obviously had high regard for Dusty Baker. The fact that you are able to embrace someone who you have a good relationship with vis-a-vis Bryan has to ease this transition for you and the disappointment of losing Dusty.
Let me make sure I have the question.
That was for Bob, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Dennis, and thank you. What hasn't been stated is that the entire Reds organization very much appreciated Dusty Baker and everything he did for us for 6 years. He gave it 110%, and we all got to be pretty close. And it wasn't the most, it wasn't the easiest thing to do to have a parting of the ways. But to have Bryan here, and knowing that Bryan was very, very capable of stepping in there, really eased the burden quite a bit. Now, I will tell you that there was no thought about a new manager until we had our meeting with Dusty, and then we started to think about it, and we didn't have to think very long or very far. And we're very pleased with the outcome.
When Dusty left, he was categorized as a player's manager, one of the guys, and maybe what was needed was a fiery guy, and that Bryan Price was not a fiery guy. What kind of manager do you want to be known as, and is it important what label is placed on you in that vein?
Well, you know what? I can't manifest something that's not me. I think in my relationships with you guys is typically I'm going to be honest and direct, forthright, but I'm not going to interact with you in the same way that I'm going to interact with the pitchers that I've had in the past 4 years. So you're going to have the chance to evaluate that on your own and come to it. If there's a term that you want to call it, you can give it a term. I'm a competitive person. I do have high expectations for myself, and those expectations will be shared and expected of the players here as well. So why don't we get a year under our belt and you guys can assign the moniker.
Bryan, certainly no one's had more interaction with Aroldis Chapman than you. You've been very outspoken, thinking he might have a different role in this team in the past. Have you thought about how you might use him going in the future? Might you change him to a starter?
You know, and I don't mean this to be glib, but I mean, I really thought about making sure I had a good suit before I got up here, as opposed to trying to figure out what we're going to do necessarily with the club. This is not something that just happened 2 weeks ago, and we're just announcing it today. I've known this for a very short time. So, in regards to Aroldis, and I was on record last spring training as saying I think pitchers get better by throwing innings, especially pitchers that don't have a lot of innings under their belt, or pitchers that struggle to throw strikes or throw their secondary pitches over the plate. So that being said, I haven't changed that philosophy. That being said, also, is that we're going to put the best team on the field, and we're going to put people in the best positions to be successful, and we'll make that decision as we go forward into spring training.
Hi, Brian. My name's Sherry Lawson. I'm with WNKU locally, and I'm on behalf of NPR today. How will your philosophy when it comes to managing differ from Dusty's, and who will your pitching coach be?
Oh, two very on-the-spot questions. Thank you. It's, you know, look, first thing I really want to make sure that everyone understands is that I don't want to be up here talking about what my differences are between Dusty and I. I learned a lot from Dusty. I've been around great people in baseball for 30 years. And what I feel any manager is, or any coach, is going to be a compilation of the people they've had in their lives. And Dusty was a leader. We all knew that he was running the club. I learned a lot from Dusty, as I did from Lou Piniella and Bob Melvin and Mike Hargrove and Joe Madden and Tom Kochman and all the people I played with, Fred Mack, my high school baseball coach. So this is going to be a compilation, you know, and so there's a lot of things that I took from my 4 years from being with Dusty. I'll definitely utilize that, as well as the other people I've been around. As far as pitching coaches, things of that nature, we're all in the works right now.
Yeah, let me answer that too. I think the one thing today, we're obviously, as Brian said, this was a decision we just made over the last few days, and we really haven't had a chance to sit down and outline everything we plan to do this winter and what we plan to do for next year. So in the coming weeks, Brian and I will sit down with the rest of our department and talk about coaching staff, how we, whether we retain guys, whether we bring in new guys. This will all be done, and we'll try to do it as soon as possible. And we'll then work on a plan to discuss the team and what needs we have, how we use certain people, and what roles and what people we need to, what holes we need to fill. So those things will all be, it'll take some time, and we're going to be very thorough in our preparation for next year. We feel we have a lot of work to do. It's going to be fun. It's exciting, and we've got a great leader here in Brian. I think as Sam and the rest of the pitchers will attest that, and I've talked to several of the position players today that are very excited about this move because everyone feels very strongly about his ability to lead. So those are all, some of these questions are all things that will be answered going forward. Brad?
Walt, real quick question here. You said you knew after one meeting, you knew Brian was the guy to take this team forward. Can you put into words what it was about that meeting and just, you know, what impressed you so much just to know he was the guy?
Well, you know, I've worked with Brian for the last 4 years, so I kind of had an idea of who Bryan Price is and what he stands for and what his work ethic is and his preparation and so forth. But I think in the first meeting that Mr. Castellini and I had with him, we were both very, very impressed with him. Then we went through with my staff, including Joe Morgan, and we had a full interview process or questions. We spent 3 hours talking to him about every possible question that you would ask a potential manager. And I think every one of the people in the room that day were convinced that, as Bob and I were in the first meeting, that he was certainly the guy that stands out, and it was the guy that we wanted to go forward. And I met with Brian again last Saturday for about 3 hours, I guess, and we talked about a lot of different things. So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of, and again, as I've said, I think as you go forward, you're going to see the things that we saw in that short period of time, and that he will bring to this team and to this organization for the future. And I think you'll all be very pleased.
Walt was, I don't know how much you can speak to this. Certainly you're not going to give me names, but I'll ask. But did you speak to anybody else officially as candidates, and were there any other interviews that you went through
I'll tell you what we
candidates?
did, George. We put together a list of, had a large list that we looked at, and through the process of connection, we then got it down to a short number, a few that we would consider talking to. And there were people that I was familiar with, some of the other people on my staff were familiar with. But I think once we had the meeting with Bryan, we felt that there was no reason to go any further, and he convinced us that this was the right time, the right place for him to lead this club. And so to answer your question, no, we did not interview anyone else.
Understandably, Major League Baseball doesn't want attention diverted away from the World Series. Did you have to get special dispensation?
Yes.
And in getting that special dispensation, did you ask for it because time was of the essence of what you needed to do during this World Series time to make changes?
Well, you have to get permission, and Mr. Castellini has a great relationship with the commissioner, and he allowed us to do this. You can do it on off days prior to the series or sometimes during the series on an off day. They prefer that you try to keep it to a minimum, but this was something that we felt was important to try and get established as soon as we could, so we could start, because we got a lot of work to do, and we wanted to get going with this before without letting a couple more weeks get by.
Bryan, sort of a bucket list projection here. Given any thought to the fact that you might not only be in the position to host, but also manage the 2015 All-Star Game?
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, great goal. Great goal. You know, I think anybody that's in this position is looking at an opportunity to have some impact in an organization that is turning the corner and taking the next step. And certainly be misleading you if I said that wasn't the goal and the intention. I'm sure it's the same with the other 29 managers that are going to be out there next year. So I'm not going to put the cart before the horse. That certainly would be a wonderful thing to take place and be a part of. But right now I'm just tickled and honored to be in this position.
Paul Doherty, Inquirer. Thanks, Bryan. Aside from the obvious day-to-day things that a manager does, filling out a lineup card, setting a starting rotation, what have you, where do you think a manager these days has the biggest impact, and where do you see yourself beyond the obvious as having the biggest impact on this team?
Well, you know, I mentioned unity before, and it's, I think, cultivation of relationships and cultivation of an organizational or a team understanding of how we play, style of play. What are we known for as an organization? Are we relentless? Are we that team that that's down by 3 late in the game that consistently finds a way to rally? Are we a team that consistently knocks out the starting pitcher before he can complete 5 innings? Are we the type of team that puts pressure on the opponent, the way we run the bases, our defensive play? Do we attack the strike zone with our pitching? We've been pretty good at getting the lion's share of our innings from our starting pitchers. Can we maintain that, and can we have this? I'm so happy that Sam LeCure is here, because he's one of those selfless relief pitchers that we've had here for the last several years that take the ball whenever we give it to them and pitch their hearts out. That's what would make me happy and proud, is if we had we could cultivate a relationship and create an identity as a team that nobody wants to play us. Nobody wants to play us for those reasons. And if I can have some impact in that, I couldn't be happier. That would be my goal.
Bryan, in today's baseball, a lot of people are characterized as sabermetrics guys, old school guys. Where would you put yourself, or your combination of both, or how would you answer that question?
Yeah, you know, I get a chance to watch a lot of good managers, and I think it's that you have to use statistical analysis to understand certain themes and certain percentages and certain matchups, and I think that's definitely a growing part of the game. And in the same respect, you have to understand the ability of your team and the guys that you're using in those situations, or what are we asking somebody to do, and is it something that they can do well, or are we just going to play the numbers game, you know, bunt or take, or, you know, matchup pitching, etc. I will say this: of all the things that I don't like doing, I didn't like doing it a great deal when we had a lot of situational pitchers, matchup guys. I have never really enjoyed the matchup game as much, matching up relief pitchers with certain hitters. If you have those types of pitchers in your bullpen that can come in there and get lefties or righties out, it's been a strength of ours as an organization these last couple of years. And you know, and you get second guessed for it when you don't bring in the lefty to get the left-handed hitter out. But you know, I think you also have to show confidence in your guys and their ability to, you know, make things happen when it's their opportunity.